I'll just recall, these are from a confessional, so the priest is asking about various sorts of sins that Timucuas might have committed, and one of the sins was getting an erection because you were embraced by a woman. So if you look at the example here, the part that is interesting is, what we want to look at is the relationship between you embraced her, which is nahibita, hold some verb suffix plus ta, okay, followed by and gently because, and then we get your penis stood up, right? So you and your penis are not the same subject, actually. Right? There's a difference between these two things. Nevertheless, the ta is used in between the two. However, if you look at switch reference languages around the world, some languages that have a marker that shows same subject, very frequently you can use that marker between yourself and some part of your body. So I think that's probably what's going on in this example, number 11. I also claimed that te is a variant of this before second person auxiliaries, and I can show you an example of that in number 12. So for example, do you accept him as your promised husband? The first verb, manta, is something like wanting or thinking. The next verb, habosote, is accept, and then it appears before this auxiliary o, which is the question marker inflected for second person. Very regularly, you find that when you would expect ta, and the following thing has the cha for second person, that ta switches to te. So there's some sort of phonological variation going on there. And number 13 is the racy example from before, but here I want you to look at the first te instead, where we have nahe bua si sinte chiqua. There we have te before a chi, the second person inflection. Okay. The next point I want to illustrate about the morphosyntax of the suffix ta is that there are a number of common verbs which show a truncated form before the suffix. Usually the truncated form shows deletion of a final vowel before the suffix. This was actually noted in Adam and Vinson, 1886. This was an early publication that reprinted one of the colonial grammars of Timucua. They noticed this alternation and commented on it in French. In English, essentially what they said is, it seems to me that the difference, they're talking about the difference between certain forms of the verb stem, the difference is purely formal. Cuenta must be contracted from cuenota, and this form simply has the ta suffix. In the same way, the group sta will be used for sota. So for example, ista says, being contracted from expected isota, and iposta contracted from the expected iposota. So there are numerous examples like this in the Timucua corpus. For example, number 14, there are quite a number of examples of this verb quoso, which means something like do. However, when quoso appears before ta, the final vowel deletes. So number 14, something like thinking angrily, have you punished anyone? This literally means something like thinking angrily, doing angry thoughts, did you punish someone? Where the doing, you would expect quoso ta, and the last vowel of quoso deletes, so that would get quosta, 14. Number 15 on page 6 shows a similar thing. There's a verb that has a few alternate forms, something like mana, mane, or mani, which means think or intend, which is used very frequently in quoting your thoughts. So among the various sins that you might have committed if you were a 17th century Timucua include thinking about various sorts of things, right? So there are many questions in this confessional. Did you think such and such a thing? Okay. If you, number 15 shows an ordinary example, not before the ta suffix, that shows you the full form, mane. This is in, if God doesn't want it, it won't rain. And there we get the full form of the verb mane. No truncation of the last vowel. 16, however, shows us a truncated version, sometimes written in the Timucua corpus as manda with a D, and sometimes manta with a T. Number 16 shows us the manda version. So, thinking angrily, have you punished anyone? Here we have the manda with deletion of the final vowel of the verb for think. Number 17 shows us similar kinds of thing. Similar thing. Okay, we also see loss of a final vowel before this suffix sini. I wrote in the handout it's of unclear meaning, but actually it's probably the reciprocal. When I was typing this, it was unclear to me, and then later when I looked at it last night, I remembered what I think this is. So this is probably the reciprocal suffix. Number 18 shows you a regular form, the full form, no loss of vowel. So, did you fight with your father? This is something like, did you and your father fight with each other? Okay. Number 19, did you have sex in the church? Did you have sex with another person in the church? There's the full sini. In number 21, however, on page 7, you see the truncated version. So here's if you went close to each other, and we would have expected sini ta. We have, instead of ta, we have te because of the following cha. And we're getting deletion of the final vowel of sini, so we get sin te at the end of this verb. On the next line, we have sin ta from expected sini ta. And number 22 shows a similar kind of thing. So looking through the corpus, the most frequent truncation type is just loss of a final vowel. However, there are a few verbs that lose a final syllable and not just the last vowel. So in number 23, there are two forms of the verb meaning to whistle. So at the very end of this sentence is the full form, elofi. So this is referring to some apparent Timucua superstition that if you whistled while paddling in the water, that would keep you from overturning. And of course, the Spanish wanted to wipe out this superstition. So the last form of the verb is elofi, the full form. However, on the preceding line, we have elota, meaning whistle, and there the fi syllable has been deleted. Okay. In example 24 and 25, I can show you a similar thing with the verb meaning go. So the full form of this verb meaning go is faye. That's shown as the last word in number 24. So this means something like it went being one with the Godhead. Number 25 shows us a truncated version, fata, from not the expected fayeta. So there we've lost a final syllable before ta.